Good morning, guys. It is a gorgeous morning outside. This is Trooper Steve on patrol. I am Trooper Steve. It is 10:01 a.m. on the nose. May 1st, April, gone in the wind behind us this morning. And truck is reading 77. We have some rain coming out through the week. Chief finally saying we have some inbound over the weekend. So it's going to be a nice time. Weather, though, just flawless out here today. Listen, we're going to talk about something that's inevitable for all of us. And I have no issue talking about certain topics. But I just got to get it out of the way. We are going to be talking about traffic, but surrounding funerals. So if death may not be your thing, today's topic may be like a little bothersome for you, but it's going to be talking about navigating funeral processions. And for years, guys, this has been an issue in Central Florida. But over the last few years, things have gotten kind of cleaned up here in Orange County, Seminole, Osceola. Without naming any specific names, we had drama with a company that was just running havoc here in Central Florida, violating traffic laws, violating the laws surrounding funeral processions. Just a mess, and giving a bad name to a lot of security companies. But I am not going to give that company the credit of saying that name, so we're not going to mention who it is or what has happened. But today we are Good Friday morning to you, Sue. Good morning. But we're going to talk about how we should be navigating around a funeral procession, not only common courtesy, but what the law says and what legally a funeral procession is allowed to do. And using that, obviously, I do have some notes, because with this specifically, guys, no, I don't want to play my house music playlist. So with this specifically, I don't want to be wrong about anything, because it's such a sensitive topic, if you think about it. It is an emotional moment for the people involved. For those not, traffic could be delayed depending on the funeral procession. Does it have a police escort? Does it not? So we want to understand, first and foremost, the purpose of a funeral procession, right? And it is a line of vehicles that are in line in order to honor someone who has died, period. It could be any of us. Every life is valuable, so everyone could have a procession from either the ceremony to the burial site. So that's what defines the procession, whether you're having a church service somewhere and then you're going to a funeral location to where you're going to bury the body. That is the procession. So that's what defines a funeral procession. The lead vehicle is usually marked, and then, of course, headlights and all that stuff flashing, or can be accommodated by law enforcement, okay? So 316, I want to make sure we talk about the administrative portion of this. 316.1974 talks about this. There are laws that govern it. Why? Because as civilian drivers, we are required to do certain things when encountering a funeral procession, whether it has police escort or not. So I want to be very clear about that. There are laws that protect a funeral procession, whether they're under red and blue lights with local police or not, okay? So let's be very clear about that. Florida law does give funeral processions the right-of-way. You heard that? Florida law does give funeral processions the right-of-way. Under the 316 statute, you have to yield right-of-way to the entire procession once it enters an intersection, and we're going to talk about that. You cannot drive in between the active vehicles of that procession unless you're directed by a law enforcement officer or a company that's escorting said procession, all right? Now, funeral processions do have the right-of-way in a intersection, but there's a caveat to that, okay? So the lead vehicle, here, we're going to break this one down because this is the biggest confusion. In a funeral procession, if you are in that procession and there's a lead vehicle. There's always going to be a lead vehicle that's escorting you guys, followed by a hearse, which is carrying the remains of your loved one or the person you're honoring, right? Everybody else is required to have their headlights on and their flashes on, so your hazard lights on. If the light is red, when that vehicle, the lead vehicle, approaches the red light, they're not going to push their way through. It's illegal. The law does not allow the funeral escort to do that. What does it allow? Once the light turns green, that funeral procession owns the intersection, meaning the lead vehicle begins to enter, and then even if the light turns red and the other traffic, everyone still has to wait for it to continue to proceed through. Okay? Now, there was a time when hearses weren't very identifiable, but it is 2025, and these things, I say this with no humor, they're beautiful. So I have some pictures that I took of some of the local ones here. This is a newer model hearse. This is Cadillac specifically outfitted. These things are outrageously expensive, and they are equipped in order to properly carry remains. And the vehicle in front of it there would be the escort vehicle. Now, a closer look on the grill of that will show you specifically there's LED lights on this, and when active in the funeral procession, they will begin to flash. Let me show you that. So this would be kind of what you would see as they would leave a funeral home. I took video earlier today of them. This is an active funeral. They were getting ready to leave a local funeral home, and you can see those grill lights that I was talking about. So now that vehicle is considered an active funeral procession, meaning other drivers would have to yield right of way. That black sedan out in front, that's the escort vehicle. Okay, so if that vehicle entered the intersection like it's doing right now, it would then possess the roadway. Other traffic would be required to yield, let them continue out until the entire funeral procession proceeded through. Now, this was a very short one. I was just lucky enough to get this video as they were just transferring remains to another side so they can have their burial service with their family. But this is the iconic video of, or iconic sight of what we would see. The lights flashing, the lead vehicle, and they're going to be a version of white and amber, but what color is specifically assigned to funerals? Do you know? Anybody on YouTube know? Purple. Purple is the universal flashing color for funerals. You can see there they have the flags being flown there that they are in a funeral procession. So that is what you would see. Real quick, let's recap this one more time. What you're looking here is what would be considered an active funeral procession, right? The lights are flashing on the lead vehicle. The other lights, LEDs, are on the hearse there. Other traffic guys would be required to yield right of way to these vehicles on either local or main roadways. There would be no, even, believe it or not, even if they had police escort or not, that hearse right there, even with those lights flashing, is saying, hey, I'm in a procession, other vehicles need to yield to me. So how about this? How about we take a drive? We drive around the property here just a little bit, and we'll simulate certain things of what both a driver should be doing and what the funeral procession would be allowed to do. Sound good? Let's do it. Oh, it is nice. Nice outside today. It is gorgeous. All right, let's switch cameras up. So, a lot of the funeral properties here in Central Florida really take care of their properties and things like that. But so what I want to do, let's see how we're going to do this. pull out here. We're over here at the local cemetery. This morning there is a funeral taking place over on that side, and I was going to drive through the property because the property is just stunning, but out of respect of those having a service right now, we're just going to avoid it, guys. We did speak with one of the corporate media people for a local cemetery, and we are going to do this again at a later date, and I want to take a real cool deep dive into this. So let's get spun around and we'll go from there. Real quick, I want to check in with Thomas. Thomas, our webmaster, master extraordinaire. How's Signal doing? Did it just chop up through that little dip in the roadway over there? All right, sounds good. I appreciate it. He says everything's looking good. It's just on my end then. That's a little dead spot for cellular, but that News 6 equipment, it's strong. Okay, so you're out on the road, right? And you're traveling. Your light is, say, green. Okay? As you're going, if you're traveling and your light's green, one or two things have to happen when you have a funeral procession approaching you from a different direction. First one, if they are under law enforcement escort, then you are required to yield to those law enforcement officers and follow their instructions, whether your light's green or not. If you see a funeral procession approaching and your light is green, like this one here, as we would be approaching this light, if it's green, then now it's changing, but if it was green, they were approaching from the other side there, I technically could continue to go because they would have no authority to enter the intersection, okay? Because they're a yielding authority, not a traffic control authority, unless they're under law enforcement escort, ... So, say now we're here, the light is red. They begin to pull out into the intersection. They're under escort, right? That lead car, the video I showed you earlier. The lights are flashing. Everybody involved in the escort has their hazard lights on, their headlights on. If it was, say, 100 cars involved in this, everyone would be able to proceed through this intersection until they're complete, even if my light turns green. Does that make sense? Because they entered it on green. Once they enter the intersection on green, they get to possess the intersection until the funeral procession is complete. There's usually a tail vehicle of some type with other flags signifying, hey, we're the end of it. Does that make sense? So the days of okay, I'm not gonna mention the names, but we're gonna talk about it. There used to be a security company, bogus, on motorcycles that would fly up and down the roadways like they were law enforcement. They were not. And decked out nicer than some local police motorcycles. And they would be hired by funeral companies, maybe to their knowledge or not, and they would provide a security escort for the funeral service, which is 100% legal. The problem is these motorcycles would be doing way over the speed limit, flying up and down the roadway, lights and sirens, forcing people off the road and then taking over intersections. Florida law says that is not allowed. What is allowed is for them to enter it on green and then hold it politely with a smile, not be aggressive, decked out in police gear like you're the T-1000 out here providing a service to a family in grief. Like, it was completely insane. So that would be completely opposite of everything I just got to describing to you of what is legal and courteous, right? So that business went out of business, and the owner got arrested. That's a whole nother story. You can head to clickorlando.com research police impersonator funeral service security, and you'll find it. I just don't want to give the company credit any name for what they did, because they gave a lot of people a bad rap. What else? And the guy was convicted, so I could talk smack. So you're in the funeral procession now. Let's switch roles here. You're actively in the funeral procession. Let me be very clear. You must stay in a single file line. Your headlights must be on, even if it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Your hazard lights must be on. And did I say you must stay in a single line? You must never change lanes unless the vehicle in front of you has changed lanes. It is not a time to be distracted or take photos. It is a time for you to honor whoever's loved ones that you're there to honor, drive safely, and follow at a little bit of a closer distance than what you normally would. You want that visual aspect that I am in a funeral procession. I'm actively involved in this, and let's be real, guys. Semi-trucks leave 4 or 5 car lengths out on the highway so that they're safe, and yet people dive into that. Someone's going to dive into your funeral procession if you give them the opportunity to. So you do not want to do that, all right? So like out here, this distance right now, pretty good distance, a little closer than normal, but at a distance I can still react. And keep in mind, they're going to have their hazard lights on, they're going to be doing the same thing, and the key thing would be for drivers to make sure you're getting from point A to point B, the ceremony to your final resting place for your loved one, in a pretty safe manner, because that's the goal. All right, so we talked about behavior. Legal responsibilities, we talked about. Must have your headlights and hazard lights on. Stay close together, we just talked about that. Safety and respectful reminders. Treat the procession as you would an emergency vehicle convoy. All right, so patience is key. They're honoring their loved one. As a driver out there, just pause at life for a second. Truly just pause at life. Recognize that they're going through an emotional experience. Let them go through it. One day, it's going to happen to you. Like I said at the top of this stream, it's equal opportunity, guys. And there are penalties for violation of right-of-way of a funeral procession. It is a moving violation. I believe here in Seminole County, it's $166, 3 points on your driver's license, and in Orange, it's $164, I believe. So you want to make sure you're being respectful, because if not, you're going to catch a ticket for it, and you probably deserve it. Okay? And beyond the penalty, think of the crash that could occur, and just the raw emotion. All right? So I appreciate you guys joining me today. I think in about a month or so, we're going to really flip this one and turn it into a pretty cool story, just because I think us being involved in it, seeing it, understanding the respectful side of it, it's just such a sensitive time. I've been involved in too many funerals that I would be proud of, just because being in law enforcement, it's the nature of the beast, and then with you guys, part of the coverage. So thanks for talking with me today. Sue, thanks for commenting on YouTube. Guys, make sure you're sharing this stuff. Let people know this is a live stream. We're one of the only news agencies that do this locally. We just never know what really is going to happen or what we're going to talk about. So hope you guys have an amazing day. Drive safely. Be respectful around those processions. And I'll see you tomorrow.